Hi there, so this is Rach from Holistic Adventure, and I wanted to talk to you today about something that's really personal, but I think it's really important to start the conversation about what is happening when we're healing wounds and when we're starting to recognize what's happened in our life and how these experiences then become behaviours and patterns that we feel we can't actually get past. And I guess I do firmly believe that one of the most important factors of helping someone through the healthy coping mechanisms is someone who's actually been through some of these experiences. And it's definitely something that when I look back what I've been through, some of these things I can't believe I've been through them. I can't believe I experienced them, but they're things that I no longer feel painful about because I've started to heal from them and I'm getting past that attachment of memory. And you know, some of these things include a battle with depression, suicide, anxiety, weight problems, with emotional eating, dissociation, disconnection, feeling lost, directionless, feeling numb and pain, drinking, drugs, smoking, sex, meeting with the wrong guys and experiencing some really terrible relationships, not loving myself at all, not even liking myself, just feeling pure hatred for myself, blaming others, and just the ups and downs that go with all of that. And I feel like I was still living that life when I got pregnant with my daughter. So, you know, 2.5 years ago, I was still living this really turbulent life, and it was really unhealthy. I was still smoking heaps and I was drinking a lot. And when I got pregnant, I decided, all right, that's it. Obviously, I have to, you know, get rid of all of this. And my life had to change and I had to become sober. Now, I'm really lucky because I had a reason to become sober, and she's the best reason to become sober. And it was probably easier because I kind of had to just do it cold turkey and do it. But, you know, it was really tough as well because people around me were doing exactly what I've been doing. All of my friends and everyone was going out and partying. I was, I think, one of the first in my friendship groups to get pregnant, except for a couple of friends who had older kids. And so everyone's doing that around you, and it's like, where do I fit now? And, you know, I'd wanted to escape so much, and then it was like, how do I then have healthy coping mechanisms to get past this when I want to escape again? And so I started eating, and, you know, pregnancy can increase that. So I might have got past the smoking and the drinking, but the eating I hadn't got past. And, you know, when you think about it, there's no doubt that the highs and lows are pretty interesting. And, you know, if you're a mum or even a dad, you understand that, like, parenthood is strange. It's an absolute wonderful gift, but it is very strange. And it's stress-inducing, and it just feels really strange. It's probably the best way I can put it. And it can be very painful. And, you know, you often question your own abilities because you're so busy trying to do so much for your child or your family and your responsibilities, and you kind of become quite lost in that process. And if you haven't healed, you bring up the same patterns over and over again, emotionally especially. So, you know, when I think about the depression that I felt through motherhood as well, you know, it comes back to what I experienced today, and it comes down to feeling isolated, feeling abandoned, and feeling like I'm just worthless. And there's many mums who would agree with me that they definitely have felt worthless. And, you know, I could yell from the rooftops that you're not worthless. My mum did that to me today, but it still pains you that you can't be on top of your game all the time, and that you can't have the 100% energy that you need to. And, you know, you throw a mental illness in there as well, or you throw expectations on yourself, or, you know, any kind of emotional background, trauma, anything. And, you know, even just not having any of that, it's still really tough. So, you know, I spent a lot of time feeling isolated in motherhood, and today was no exception. I feel often quite lonely when it's just me and my daughter. I'm not really getting out and doing a lot of stuff at the moment, as I'm waiting to hear from something about my university subjects, and it's becoming lonely. I'm like trying to find things to do. I don't want to just clean up the house and, you know, just do things like that. I do love spending time with my daughter, but when you spend so much time with them, when you're going through in a situation like I am, where my husband's working 14-hour days, it's just, you don't even have the energy for that anymore. And I hate that. I hate that I don't have energy for her, and that therefore it's that constant whirlwind of feelings and the ups and the downs. But in that, I think we're meant to feel these ups and downs. We're meant to experience what we're experiencing so that we can then feel that pain and then feel that really happy feeling. You know, I created a victim self because I had become so isolated and so lonely. And it's really important to not stay in this victim mindset. We're not victims. Anything that we've been through has happened, and you can heal from anything, any trauma, anything that's happened you can heal from, and you don't have to be a victim, and you don't have to hold it as a something that you can never let go of. It's really important to know this, that everything can be healed from. And some of that just comes from confidence and knowing, becoming confident and strong in yourself, and just being able to let those things go. And that's not easy, it's not, but it's really important. So 2.5 years later, after having my daughter, I've cut a lot of bad food out. I've cut sugar, I've cut alcohol, a lot of those crutches that I was using to keep myself in that victim mentality, and that mentality of I can't get past this, so I'm just going to, you know, eat or drink or whatever to help the numbness, help the pain, and to escape. And, you know, when we think about it, it's incredible. There must be something as a child, and I did read somewhere that pain medication has sugar in it, and maybe this is the reason. When we have sugar, it makes us feel better, and often, especially when you have an addiction. And yeah, I was reading that a lady was saying that Panadol has sugar in it, so when children have, and sugar can be used as well as a pain medication when children are sick in hospital. So it's interesting. I'd like to, you know a bit more about where that comes from, but sometimes I wonder whether it is that kind of thing that comforts us, And I don't know, as a child, even my daughter, I give her chocolate when she needs comfort. Sometimes when she's upset, or I'm like, here, have a chocolate, it'll make you feel better. So, it's kind of used as maybe a shut up tool. Maybe that's not nice to say, but sometimes it's just like that medium in the middle. You're like, just take this so that I can have a bit of slack here. And when I think about it, it's something that you do because you just feel like you need to at the time. But I find that that's very interesting when it comes to my sugar addiction, because I was heavily addicted to sugar. And I came off it little by little, as in like 8 years of coming off it. So I drank a lot of soft drink with my alcohol. And now I don't have any, I only have natural sugar, like coconut sugar or something like that. I don't have any processed food that might have sugar in it. And my energy levels are like so much better. So where was I going with that? What's helped me is my journey to emotional healing, and my journey to looking within for answers, my journey to start to heal from the inside out. things that happened to me as a child and to as a teenager, as an adult, I'm starting to really go through and heal. Things that happened because of the circumstances I was in that I could not help. You know, you grow up in a family and you can't help the family you're in, and you know, my family's beautiful, but we still had our ups and downs. No family's perfect. And even though someone would look at some of the things that happened to me and say, really, that's your issue, for whatever reason it really affected me at the time. So I'm grateful for those experiences, because it's necessary for us to fall down, for us to come back up. We have to fall down to change our perception and break through to the other side, even if it's painful. And in the end, stress is a natural part of life. And I can now see the other side of where I was today, when I was at probably my most vulnerable I've been at for quite a long time. And, you know, experiencing the highs and lows, the lights and the dark, it's really important to change our perception. If we don't change our perception, then we don't change and we're not growing at all. And I think more and more it's becoming harder and harder to push that away. It's kind of just becoming a natural part, a state of our being. So, you know, I'm really grateful for these experiences. And, you know, I was thinking today that even the day that I wanted to die, I remember the day very clearly that, you know, I drank so much and I grabbed a razor and I was in the shower and I was ready to slit my wrists. And I cut my thumb. I slipped and cut my thumb, and I cut it pretty badly that I had to stop the shower and put something over it. And I think, wow, imagine all the relationships and life that I would have missed out on. You know, I think of the things that I've gone through in that time, seeing my friends have babies, and then me having my baby and getting married and just being really happy. And, you know, I guess at the time I didn't know if I could be happy. All I knew was that I was hurting and I needed to feel something, because I was so numb I couldn't feel anything. And I felt that numbness today in a different space. So today, you know, I wasn't in that really depressive, destroyed space, but I could feel the numbness. And instead of doing what I did previously, I got myself together and I went outside and I got some human contact. I went to a cafe with my daughter and we just experienced life, and I sat down with some children and we fed some guinea pigs, and that was my experience, and that was much healthier than what I've been through. But in the past, I couldn't do that. I didn't have the strength at the time to do that. Whereas now I can be really, really understanding that, yes, that's happened, but that doesn't have to be the way it is all the time, and that it's a temporary feeling. And you know, when I think of the issue with pharmaceutical companies and that quick fix position, you know, I'm someone who was on antidepressants quite regularly, and you know, my husband was on the antipsychotics even. You know, he was labelled as schizophrenic, and if you met him, you would be like, no way. And I was labelled that I would never get out of manic depression, and that's absolutely crap. So you know, I took antidepressants for quite a long time. I relied on Valium for quite a long time, especially when I gave up alcohol. And it's really interesting how there's that quick fix as that, you know, take this and you'll be okay. And it's just not true. It's not true at all. I'm not doubting that at a point antidepressants weren't important for me, or Valium. Today I probably wished I had a Valium when I was hyperventilating, but I didn't even have Panadol when I had a headache. I was like, nope, I'm going to get through this. And it's very interesting that I did. And I'm not even saying Panadol is bad, because even when my head's really bad, I'll have one. But I've been trying to come off all the pharmaceutical stuff more and more. It's I think can become a bit of a trap. And if there's no therapy involved, there's no healing involved, you're not going to heal. It's as simple as that. And you know, I think it's really important to talk about mental illness, because when it comes to mental health, it's a much nicer way to say it. But when it comes to mental health, people don't choose to have a mental health issue. You know, they have a mental health issue because something has troubled them. They've gone through a traumatic event, or they're going through one. are experiencing some horrible hurt and some really painful stuff. And we shouldn't look at them like they're an issue or there's something wrong with them. You know, I know when I was going through a lot of my hurt and pain, I didn't want anyone to know, because it was just such a thing that, you know, you had a massive issue when you were going through this, and it was seen as attention seeking, especially back then, and it probably still is like that now. And you know, when you think about it, people who go through alcoholism and go through drugs, and, you know, they're not doing it because they wake up one day and say, I'm going to be an alcoholic or I'm going to be a drug addict. They wake up and they go, I need to cover this hurt and pain, or I need to feel something, or, you know, I need to deal with something that's happened to me. And they're not consciously doing it. It's an unconscious reaction. When I was 15 and my grandpa died, you know, the things that I did between 15 and 28 when I got pregnant, like, all of it was reactionary to mostly that. And there were things that built up along the way, and then I started treating myself worse and worse and worse, but it was all reactionary. And I guess in the end, nobody could help me but myself. And I think that's a reoccurring theme. So, you know, people have crutches, even if they have been through a traumatic event and they don't become an alcoholic or a drug addict or smoking or anything. They can have emotional eating habits or just manipulation crutches. And you can become addicted to both those things, manipulation and emotional eating, or whatever it is. You become addicted to it because that is your pattern and that's how you deal with it. That is your unhealthy coping mechanism. And you can have healthy coping mechanisms. You know, I didn't wake up one day and say, I want to become an alcoholic and steal money and steal alcohol and, you know, be a bit of, and regret that for the rest of my life or something. I didn't wake up and want that for myself. And you know, those wounds are deep and they're traumatic. And people that experience trauma need to be loved. They need to be told that they can heal. It's not a quick fix. It's not, oh, we can just send them to a counsellor and everything will be okay. They need to feel like what they've been through is okay. It's, you know, what they've experienced and what they've done is just a reaction, and that they can rise above it and love themselves again. Because in the end, it's not about what they're pushing out to anyone. It's their love for themselves. And, you know, in the end, when I think about the night that I stopped drinking, it was because I drank so much that I blacked out and I didn't know where I was or what I was doing. And I woke up the next morning and decided I'm not going to do this anymore. And everyone else went out on a Saturday night and I stayed home and I watched James Bond. And it saved my life. And, you know, it set me on a journey. And that journey has taken 8 years. It's taken 8 years of relapse constantly. And it's taken 8 years to get me to where I am today, where I actually laid there and decided I didn't want this anymore. I decided that I didn't want to be a victim anymore, and I decided that I didn't want to not be able to get through this anymore. And 8 years, you know, we think people just need to be fixed. Just give them some antidepressants and they'll just be fixed. And I just can't watch it happen anymore. You know, it doesn't happen in 6 months. It doesn't happen in 3 months. It doesn't happen in a year. It can take a long time. And it's really painful for those around us, I'm sure. But they're not perfect either. And sometimes the people around us can enable us or actually disable us. So, you know, it's all really intricate. But in the end, it's not about fixing people. It's about supporting people. It's about saying, hey, you've been through this and that's okay. And how can I help you through this? My best support is, you know, my mum and my dad. and without them, I probably wouldn't be here. And that's just the truth. And you know, I'm in my most healthiest now. I'm in my most healthiest. And I'm sleeping better. And I'm not having panic attacks. I was having panic attacks every night for quite a long time, for years. And I'm not drinking and I'm not eating to cover that pain up. And for once, what I felt today was a raw emotion. And I'm actually really thankful for it. And what I'm feeling now is raw. You know, once upon a time I'd be really emotional and it would be really, like, I couldn't understand it. Like, I didn't understand why I was so upset. But this is actually raw emotion for once. And I'm really proud of that. And I know that probably sounds weird to someone. But I think when you finally let it out, it's a really beautiful thing. So, you know, today I was really upset, and I got my daughter to go into her room because we'd just had a bit of a up and down moment, a bit of a tantrum. So I was giving her some time out, and I was really upset, so I laid on the bed and I just cried. And I was shaking, and I was twitching, my body was twitching, my nervous system was twitching. And I felt like I was going to die. I started hyperventilating, which I've never done before. I've had panic attacks in my sleep and I've had anxiety attacks, but I've never had breathing issues, and I was hyperventilating. I calmed myself down and I texted my husband, and that kind of got my mind off it, and I was able to just breathe. And I think it's the first time I've ever felt like that. And I felt like I was holding my breath, and like I couldn't breathe, and couldn't get my lungs working, and my lungs hurt for ages after. And I brought the rational in, and I cried. I let it out. I sobbed. And feeling that deep hurt was good. Because, you know, when you go through so much depression and anxiety, you're not hurting. Like, you can't feel anything, especially when you're on antidepressants and all these pharmaceutical drugs. You can't actually feel anything. You become a zombie, and then you're confused at why you're a zombie. And it's really hard. But for the first time, it was like I was used to being so blaming in that space, and I'd used to be, you know, I felt abandoned and lonely, as I said, and I blamed those around me for not being there for me. But it was the first time I realised that I just had to be there for myself. This is really stressful, what I'm going through, and what am I doing for myself? Am I looking after myself? Because I think my reaction is, don't look after yourself, and then you'll kind of get that reaction. Because I think when I was a kid, I got that. You know, when I think of my daughter and she's having a tantrum, and I'm in a really crap mood, she's reacting off that. And I think even now as an adult, I'm still doing that. So it's really interesting to have that reflection thought. And, you know, when I think about it, this is a natural up and down that I need to go through. And I think that we need to understand that it is okay to cry, it's okay to hurt, and it's okay to feel the up and downs. And then I have to look at myself and say, am I taking time out? Am I looking after myself? Am I calming myself down when I need to? Am I in control of myself? And yes, I am now, and I'm not a victim. No one has abandoned me. I'm not that 3-year-old anymore. I'm not that 6-year-old anymore. I'm not that 15-year-old anymore. I'm me, and I'm 31, and I'm able to look after myself. And I need to love myself and be proud of myself and truly support myself through all of these things that happen. You know, my husband, he has to work. You know, we don't have family here. And my friends are busy. They can't always be here for me. And I might talk to a couple friends over the time, but in the end, I actually just need I just need to support myself. I used to accuse people of different things, and none of those are true. You know, the abandonment and the isolation was everyone else's fault. But in the end, I think I was just lonely. And who could help that? Because I was only lonely because I hadn't found myself. And I'd lost my connection with myself. Friends, family, any relationship is only one part of a connection. The most important part of the connection is you and your connection with yourself. I'm sorry this has been such an emotional video, but I experienced something really raw today, and I wanted to put it on a video, and I wanted to be really 100% with how I feel about it, because this is serious. You know, this is what's happening in our society right now, and we are in a space of belief that you're not meant to feel up and down, and you're not meant to feel at all, and you are. And that's why people like me are here, you know, an energy healer. We're here to help you guide through that process. And so one part of this is awareness. One part of it is to say, if you need help with anything, please feel free. You know, I have experience in this. I understand how you feel. And if I don't, and if I would never say I understand everything, but I understand the pain, and I understand what it feels like to go through it. And I really want to be able to be there for anyone who's feeling that hurt and pain, and know that you can heal from this, and we can start the journey, or we can continue a journey. So I hope that you are having a really good weekend, and I hope that you've taken something from this. And even if it's just that love, that unconditional love for yourself, that knowledge that it's time to love yourself.